Very happy to do it. I'm not an expert, but I do like to contest. First licensed in 1960. So um, 15-year-old, so you can deduce my current age. I did contest. I was active from that time on till I went to Australia in 1968. And then came back to Canada and worked in Prince George, and I was active there on the air as Victor Echo 7 Delta Uniform Yankee, and I did a little bit of contesting there. I had a tower and a Yagi up in my property there, but I was pretty busy with family and work and everything, so didn't do too much. And then when I moved to Nanaimo in 1988. I was again out of radio pretty much altogether in Nanaimo until I retired in 2003. I did a little bit of consulting work for the next 5 years, but I was back into it at that point. So I've been back into it for about 22 years. And I picked up this current call sign, Victor Echo 7 Alpha X-ray, at that time about 20 years ago. I really got going with contesting. You'll see some of the people in my slides. My mentor when I was first licensed at the Burnaby Radio Club in the late 50s, early in 1960, I got my first ticket. Jim Smith, Victor Echo 7 Foxtrot Oscar, who passed away just a couple of years ago, actually passed away in Parksville here, but he lived in Vancouver, and he was sort of my mentor. And also in about 15 years ago, he got me going up to Victor Echo 7 Uniform Foxtrot, one of the contesting stations on the island that we'll talk about a little bit here. So I did quite a bit there, and I do it a little bit on my own. I feel like I'm kind of I'm past going up there now. It's just a little bit too intense for me, and my wife is mad at me when I go away for the weekend. So it's so anyway, contesting. Let's get right to it. Okay. So this was Glenn said he wanted a contesting 101 for ranked beginners, but I knew what was going to happen. I knew that many of you would have had some experience and would like to talk more about it. I have my friend Les VA7 Romeo November, who was at VA7 UF those 15 years ago, and is still active as a contester. So he's been doing this longer than I have and knows a lot more. So I'm glad he's along to correct me and help me out. Some of the others of you have been contesting and so on for a while too. So we'll make sure that it's sort of a general discussion. It sort of starts out as a contesting 101 set of slides, but I think there's some depth to it, and I welcome feedback from anybody. Any questions to start? Anything you want to know? Okay, let's go. So I'm not going to read. I should mention I'm I've been doing these slides for a long time, and Tom keeps counseling us with an article that he brought forward called "Death by PowerPoint," which is how not to do it. So I found that I was doing it all the wrong way mostly. So I will try not to read the text to you. I will try to let you read the text on your own. Occasionally, I will read it to you. If there's photos, I will talk. And please, if you have anything that you want to, there's a small enough group that if you were to raise your hand, I'd be very happy to take your questions as we go through. Okay? So this is an introduction, exchange of ideas. It's not contesting 101. It's more of a conversation about radio contesting. So what is it? Well, known in Europe as radio sport. If you say it in French, radio sport, it sounds really sexy, but it is quite popular in Europe. Usually it's about a contest exchange for a period of time, how many contacts you can make in a short period of time. And the contest requires an exchange of a specific bit of information and the call sign. Contest sponsor also sets up how the points are counted and so on. So that's sort of the basic starting point. There are big and small contests all over the place. It's pretty popular. The big international events draw as many as 30,000 plus log submissions. Somebody once said that it was bigger than the Olympic Games, but of course it's not quite in that category. but it is quite popular still. 48-hour contest. If you're an individual operator, you can make as many as 5,000 contacts in the period of time you're allowed to work, usually 30 or 36 hours out of the 48. Brian, how many contacts have you made in one period on your own? 5,000? No, sorry.
You're muted, Brian. You're muted, Brian.
Okay, sorry. You are muted, Brian. No worries. I didn't want to catch you up. I just want to make sure you weren't going to sleep there.
No. Sorry about that. Yeah, well, I had a cup of tea here and I didn't want to make any noise while I'm putting the cup. Anyway, I guess the most I've done in one contest is maybe 600. That was fine for me.
Yeah.
That was in a 48 hour.
Yes, yeah. Les, how about you? How many contacts have you made maximum on your own?
Mostly it was at UF's place, and quite honestly, I can't count. They were in the, I don't know,
Yeah.
8,900, whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the totals as we go through. The contests are open to anybody. You have to please read the rules before you get involved, and it's fun. I put this footnote here. Some people really don't like contesting. When I first moved to Parksville 12 years ago, the first radio amateur I met here took me aside and he said, "I hear you're a contester. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." He said, "You don't even get to know the guy's name." And so there's a special sort of attitude among some radio amateurs that the QSO is a sacred place where you need to make friends and be nice and not competitive. Contesting is kind of the opposite of that. And I think we have to recognize that some people don't always like us. So we do mess up the bands if you're running a net sometimes on some of those bands. The net operators don't like contesters too much. So we just have to recognize that sometimes we're unpopular. Of course, many of us like the other part of amateur radio as well. So I thought I'd talk about small stations. There's a small station. I kind of like this photo because it's so random. It looks like he's got the stuff spread out sort of accidentally over his ping pong table in his downstairs area there. This is an ICOM 7300. He's got a laptop. He's got a Morse code key. He's got an antenna analyzer. Looks like he might have it looks like a high gain rotator controller there. I think it might be, maybe some of you recognize it. He's got a soldering station in the back. So this is all he needs to contest. It would work very well with a wire antenna as well. So anybody can do it with a small station. And then I thought there's a photo I picked off the web as well. This is a little bit bigger, and this is more like my sort of style of station. In fact, this guy, whose name I don't know, Echo India 2 Kilo Charlie, has an ACOM 1000 amplifier. I have one of those. I use ICOM radios. This looks like a Pro Series, Pro 3 or Pro 2 or something like that. He's got a rotatable antenna. This is a little bit bigger. Got a little more power maybe. Here's even bigger. This is V7UF Uniform Foxtrot up in Comox. And this is a historic photo. There's Les on the right there with his back to us. I'm in the middle there in my prime. This is about maybe what Les, maybe 13, 14 years ago perhaps, when we first started going up there. The fellow standing with the white polo shirt there is Jim Smith, V7 Foxtrot Oscar, my mentor in Burnaby Radio Club when I was in the late 50s. And then Dwayne Sandemeyer right there, Victor Echo 7 Uniform Foxtrot, is the owner of the station. So you can see what's going on here. This is a multi-station. At this time, I think he had only these 3 stations. He's using Kenwood 850s. We won't talk much about equipment in contesting, but the idea for most of these multi-stations is you need a reliable radio. It doesn't have to be the best. You want to be able to buy it inexpensively and keep a little stack of them on your workbench so you can plug them in whenever you need them. In Dwayne's case, he's put the station together on a low budget, still quite a significant accomplishment. Each station has a linear amplifier. You can see the bandpass filters on each of the stations so that we're not interfering very much with each other. Of course, it's very hard to avoid that. So that's an even bigger contesting station. Here's some other bigger things. Here's one of Dwayne's towers. He has two towers on his property that are, one of them is 150 and one 170 feet. You can see that the tower rotates within the bearings. You see the top of the guy stations is a bearing ring that the tower moves within, so that means you can stack the tower. What you're seeing is you're seeing tri-banders that are stacked for stacking effect, which is kind of not exactly a perfect arrangement, because of course the tri-banders stacked don't give you the full stacking effect on every one of their bands, but you do get some kind of stacking effect, and a 40 meter full-size 3-element Yagi at that height that moves with the tower. So this is kind of when if you get addicted to contesting, this is where you might end up building this kind of station. But of course you don't need it. Here's the base of the tower. This is not at Dwayne's. This is at some other place, but it's the same idea. The tower rotates. The rotator controller is rotating from the base. The motor is there. And that makes it a lot easier to manage. Of course, you still got to get the feed lines up to the various antennas up top. So why are we contesting? Well, there's lots of activity. It is an adrenaline rush. Sometimes we know that my grandkids and stuff, they like to play video games, and they get the same kind of adrenaline rush that I do when there's lots of traffic on the radio in the contest. It's kind of like a video game for old guys, I tell them. Easy to make contacts. So if you have a limited operating time, if you're working or if you're busy with other stuff, it's nice to be able to go there and be sure that the band will be full of people who want to contact you. It is a test of your station limits and of your preparation. If your connections don't work, if your antenna's kind of not as good as it should be, you will notice that. Good for public service training if you're in any kind of a situation where you need to make quick decisions and quick contacts and talk to somebody else or a group of people. It is training for that, I believe. And the other thing you saw at V7UF is sort of what we call a big gun station. The other thing that happens in a contest, there's only a few hundred big gun stations around the world, and they need the little stations. So it's not like they're an exclusive club. The guys with the big antennas, in order to get a score, they need to work the small stations. So that's why it's quite useful to be a small station sometimes, because everybody's looking for you. Okay, now so the contesting 101 part of this, the main ideas and terminology, I thought we would just work through these main topics and we can take questions on each one. Any questions so far? Anybody okay? Are you hearing me all right? Is the pace all right? Brian?
Maybe you'll get to this in the presentation, but one of the things about contesting is that you learn so much about high frequency radio propagation, which parts of the world are open at what times of the day and night and on what frequencies. It's a real education.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Brian. I will get to that, but I appreciate you mentioning that because that's something that perhaps should have been in my last list there. Okay, so let's go through the topics quickly. Sponsor organizer. So the big contests usually have a National Radio Association as the sponsor. So the Amateur Radio Relay League, the big American radio club, the Radio Society of Great Britain, the Radio Amateurs of Canada, the International Amateur Radio Union, and the Japan Amateur Radio Telegraph Society, and then big magazine, CQ magazine, no longer quite as big as it was formerly, going back 15, 20 years, but is still out there. And they still, I guess the main thing that CQ magazine does still is organize big contests. They're some of the more popular ones. They do the WPX series of contests, which is kind of cool innovation because there you're looking for the prefixes, and the prefix to the call sign is what you're getting for a multiplier in the contest. For local regional interest type contests, state or province-wide clubs, for example, the BC QSO party coming up that Glenn mentioned is sponsored by the Orca DX and Contest Club, and by Rebecca, whose surname I forget, Japanese name. Her surname Yamamoto, is it? No, Rebecca.
Kimoto.
Komoto, yes, thank you, Komoto, thank you. And so she's sort of the organizer for that one, and that's a lot of fun. California QSO party is also a lot of fun for BC stations, especially if you have a small station, small power, because they're kind of they're not line of sight, but they're right down this side of the mountains, so you can work a lot of California stations quite easy. And it's kind of fun because I think there's 47 California counties, and it's they're a little, as I said, well, as we'll see, the QSO parties are a little bit quieter. I mentioned that here. They're a little more friendly, and the CW is a little bit slower if you're getting started with CW. And the other thing to remember is that the contests the organizers and sponsors are nearly always dedicated volunteers. They're trying really hard to make it work. We'll talk more about the contest rules and how the rules are enforced and whatnot. But it's not a place where you want to argue with the referees here or anything like that. Anything about the contest sponsors and organizers, or about the kind of contests? Any questions? Okay, we'll move forward to the next topic. So modes, frequencies, band plans. Most contests specify a mode. They're either CW, SSB, RTTY, digital. Some encourage multi-mode operation. But usually if they do that, they give more points to CW and RTTY and digital contacts than for voice. I think because the preponderance of people who operate like the voice, I don't know if I think that's still probably true. So the CW and RTTY get more points to encourage more operation in those modes. Often the contest organizers will suggest a range of frequencies where you can, especially if it's a small contest, they will see centered on a particular frequency, or for CW they will say often 25 kilohertz up from the bottom of the band. They require that each participating station will adhere to the rules of of whatever nation you're operating in. In our case, we have the ISED rules, and that's worth knowing a little bit, especially if you're working in some of the contests where there are Americans, because the Americans have a slightly different setup for their licensing. The lower license, the easier license classes are not allowed, for example, to go right to the bottom of the band. They start, the general class has to stop at 25 kilohertz above the bottom edge of the band. Only the what's it called? Not the expert. Extra class? Yeah, the extra class can go right to the bottom of the band. That's useful to know if you're contesting. So VHF, UHF contests. Some of those around the world, but not so much on the West Coast, at least not my experience. Some people have done contesting on 6 meters, if 6 meters happens to be open. But the VHF, UHF contests are the most fun if you live in the Washington, D.C. to Boston corridor, or if you live in Central Europe, or if you live in Southern California. You got lots of people around you on those frequencies. If you want to avoid the contest, the WARC bands, 12 meters, 17 meters, 30 meters, are always contest free. Any questions or comments about that element? Okay, and the entry categories usually related to power. Most of the contests have a QRP category, 5 watts or less, have a low power category under 100 watts, and a high power category of 100 watts up to whatever the legal limit is in your country or jurisdiction. It's a good opportunity to point out that there's some innate unfairnesses in a lot of this because some countries have very high limits. Some people have no limits on the power you can run. Some people run broadcasting power, level power, thousands of watts, one assumes. But of course, you're competing for the major winner of the contest. You're competing with everybody, but you're also there are awards, as we'll talk about, for the highest score in your local jurisdiction, in your country, or in your province or state. So it's that balances the somewhat innate unfairness of that legal limit law. Some contests have overlay categories for stations using wires, tri-band Yagis. Few contests are private. There's a couple of clubs, the 10-10 Club, I think, and the Fine Operators Contest, FOC, where you have to be a member, although they will often take people who aren't members. You can contact them if you want to. Doesn't happen very often, but sometimes you encounter them. And most contests, you have to declare whether you're assisted or unassisted, whether you're using the internet reporting systems to identify stations. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. And team contesting, multi-band is a popular collegial team sport. If you get a chance to go to a station or to operate with a station where they're multi-operators, that can be a lot of fun, and you can learn a lot from doing that, as Brian pointed out. I wanted to go next to, there's one of the biggest multi station. This is November Romeo 5 Mike, about 50 miles outside of Houston, Texas. Maybe somebody could tell me, I think this must be a training session because there are only 6 bands. Nobody's using I don't see anybody using a microphone, so it's impossible to have, I think we're seeing 10 operators there in 10 positions. I can't think of a contest where that would be allowed, but it's probably a training session, I'm thinking. But you can get an idea of, this is a high-end station now. We're now talking about, look at the Green Heron rotator controllers, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. None over here, these are probably the low frequency stations over on the right. They're using ICOM, probably 756 Pro series again, Pro 3 probably, and they're using the rather expensive micro-ham interfaces with them. And they've got monitors. Notice the quality linear amplifiers, all the same. You can probably just plug them in and out. These are Alpha 77s from the 80s, 1980s, but they are magnificent, powerful pieces of equipment. Got the Bird power meters. You can see their power output all set up. These are smaller. I forget the number there. These are also alpha amplifiers, but so that they're probably only maybe, how many would you say in the world? Maybe as many as 40 or 50 stations like this. No more, I should have thought. And you meet them all the time, but as I said before, they need you if you're a little pistol small operator. A little more antennas. This is November Romeo 5 Mike. You can see their antenna farm. Looks a little bit like Dwayne's up in Comox, except that this is on about 80 acres and got a lot more space. That gives you some idea of the what's going on there. Similar antennas. These are not, of course, these are Yagis, but not multi-band Yagis. So you're getting the full effect of the stacking, something like 3 additional dB of gain. Notice that also that the guys are built out of Philistran, which is a non-conductive guy material. Little more expensive than steel cable, and you can tell that's what it is because the that particular material is like a glass rubber type material that doesn't join in the same way that that steel cable does. You can see the joints there have to be, they're kind of woven in, they're kind of woven around each other, and then they have the big loops on them. So that's how you can tell from a distance that it's a Philistrand type antenna. And these are the low band antennas. This is what you can do if you get really serious. These are four square phased antennas. So what you've got is 160 meters and an 80 meter section. So there's 4 for 80 and 4 for 160, and they're phased with phasing equipment so that you get to 2 elements of parasitic gain in 4 directions, and you have a switch on above your radio that can switch you from whichever direction you want. And of course, if you're in Houston, you can see that you got Europe one way, and then the other way would be South Pacific and Australia, and then the other way you've got Japan one direction, and then you got the southern the South America and Africa kind of the other way. Of course, Africa can also be over the pole in the European one, so you'd have to fiddle around with that. But that's impressive. There are a couple of stations. One I remember seeing. If you've worked him in the contest, Oscar Hotel 8 X-ray in northern Finland has a Yagi on 160 meters. It's a huge 200-foot high monster that rotates. It's 3 elements on 160 meters. It's used by base jumpers they climb it in the night with their parachutes and leap off it. It's a huge thing. But I think that's the only one in the world on 160 meters. But there are people in Canada that I know that have Yagi, 3-element Yagis on 80 meters, and you can actually buy those commercially if you want to. But this is the high-end stuff. These are the... Okay. Any comments or questions about that before we move ahead? So all contests require participants to have an exchange, usually just a call sign. If you want to practice CW for contesting, I recommend Morse Runner. Basically, it sends you call signs at whatever speed you want in a contest sort of setting. So the call sign is the most important element of the exchange. All contests require usually another little bit of information, a signal report. Signal reports in contesting are a bit of a joke because they're always 599 in CW or 59 in voice, and I think nobody sends except in Parks on the Air and Summits on the Air, they'll send an accurate signal report. But in contesting, it's always 599 and 59. Some contests have the ARRL section, usually your state or your province. So BC, Saskatchewan. They're often grouped. So MAR are the maritime provinces in Canada. And then some of the jurisdictions are divided for ARL sections. So, for example, NNY is Northern New York, GTA is Greater Toronto area, and Eastern Pennsylvania and North Texas. So if you want to practice, contesting, you need to kind of become familiar with what to expect in that kind of contest. Many of the contests require a progressive serial number, starting from 001 and going up as far as you go. Some contests require first name, Bob, Don, Bill. So if your name is, Peter Richardson III, you don't want to, you just want to call yourself Pete. You want to keep it short. Some of the contests more involved, the ARRL sweepstakes, for example, requires a signal report, a first name, first year licensed, the section, and I think there might be something else there. Sometimes they use the age of the operator, so it's a bit of information in the contest that you need to exchange. And contest scoring can get complicated. Nobody worries about it because your computer logging programs handle it for you. But it's worth knowing because it contributes to your strategy. So most of the time, each QSO is worth 1 or 2 points. For example, CW QSO is worth 2 points. Voice mode is worth 1 point. So this is a very simple one. So if you made 212 CW QSOs, 2 times 212 is 424. And 155 voice QSOs times 1 is 155. So you would have earned 579 points. And then you're going to multiply that by the multipliers. And contests have different multipliers. Some contests you multiply by the countries that you've worked. There's 325 roughly countries available to work. Call sign prefixes, that's the WPX contest. State, counties, world zones in the ITU zones. There's about, I don't know, 55 or something. In the CQ zones, there's 40 Maidenhead squares, and there could be more. I wanted to just use this example and go into a little more detail for about 3 minutes here, I hope. So take the recent CQ Worldwide DX Contest CW version 2024. Points are awarded according to location. So contacts with stations on different continents are worth 3 points, and contacts with stations on the same continent are worth 1 point, except North America, where you get 2 points for working stations in Canada and US, provided they're in different countries. And again, there's a certain balance to that, I guess, because in Europe you've got so many different countries so close by, we have only a few countries close by. Contacts with stations in the same country are worth 0 points. So here's how it would look. Let's say you put in 15 hours on low power. Mostly you're doing search and pounce. We haven't talked about that yet, but mostly you're just calling other stations. You're not sitting and having people call you. So let's say you average about 49 QSOs an hour, which is not a bad rate for a small station. So you do 735 QSOs in 15 hours. Good propagation, so your average point count is a little high. It's 2.6 maybe. Okay? So that means you've worked quite a few stations off the continent, right? Because it's 3 for off the continent, 2 for other stations on the continent, okay? So each multiplier can be counted once on each band. So here's what your multipliers are going to look like. In this case, CQ zones are a multiplier. There are 40 of them. Countries, there's 325. So on 10 meters, you worked 8 zones in 12 countries. On 15, you worked 21 zones in 40 countries. On 20 meters, 14 zones in 19 countries, et cetera, et cetera. So the total zones, 53, total countries, 84. So you got 137 mults. So you got the points, whatever the point count is, and multiplied by the 137 mults, right? So your final score would be 137 times the 1911 points. You got 261,807 points. So when you submit your log to the sponsor, it will be log checked by computers. This is a comparatively new innovation going back to the 70s and 80s. This didn't exist, but inevitably you will have made some mistakes, which will reduce your claim score, okay? So what we do with 3830 that Glenn has been encouraging us to use is we record our claimed scores, but we know that they're likely to be reduced by simple mistakes. For example, simple CW mistake, right? Yankee Tango 5 Mike, but you copied Yankee Tango 5 Tango. That could happen so easily because the T is 1 dash and the Mike is 2 dashes, as you know. So if there was a slight static crash or another station interfered, it would be easy to make that mistake. And that raises another quick issue about context strategy, which we'll talk about a little bit more as we move forward. But mostly in contesting, you don't want to be turning in a completely accurate log. If you are, you're going to be too slow, right? So you got to, a lot of times you got to just let it go and have it reduced by the computer analysis. If you're waiting to make it perfect, you're going to be too slow, and so you're not going to have a good score ultimately. At least that's my take. Maybe others have a different opinion there. And so just for fun, here we are at, this is the same contest we were looking at. I don't know if you can read that if your screen is big enough, but I just wanted you to notice. So here's Charlie November 3 Alpha. This is a contesting station in the Madeira Islands off the coast of Africa. CW, so he can only work 6 bands at a time. Look at the number of QSOs that they made in this 48-hour period. It's almost unimaginable. 17,985 QSOs, right? 534 on 160, 1,844 on 80, 35, as you can see across the band there, right? So I think this is also a reminder that that location and propagation, your proximity to large concentrations of contesters, of radio amateurs, is a critical issue in scoring. We're on the west coast of North America. To get to Europe, we've got to go over the pole to get, which is sometimes problematic with propagation, and to get sort of even to Southern Europe or Africa or anywhere like that, we've got to go through what's known as the Eastern Wall. We've got a whole wall of contesters down the East Coast. So it's a good thing that we get to compete against each other on the West Coast, and we don't have to necessarily compete with those people on the East Coast. Of course, also your location. The huge scores are from stations like the Azores and the Madeira Islands, where their proximity to Europe and the East Coast of North America and their location in a water, salt water around them, gives them a tremendous advantage, which we often don't have. And of course, it's something that you can't control really. But I think it's important to mention that's always part of the discussion with radio contesting. So logging and log submission, there's several computer logging programs that are free to download. Some can be purchased, not very expensive. WinTest is one of the ones it's a European one, quite popular in Europe. November 3 of Foxtrot Julia Papa is an American one that you can buy discs, they'll send them to you, or you can download from them. Most people in North America use N1 Mic Plus, which is free, well supported. They change it every few weeks, update it, and make corrections to it. So it's quite a wonderful program. Just raise your hands, how many have used N1MM? Yeah, most of you know what we're talking about. We don't have to spend too much time on it. The logging program will, of course, record the frequency and the time and all of those things that you need. All you need is to enter the call sign. Also, of course, you can set it up to send the exchange if you want to. CW, it's good. Most people use N1M to send the CW exchange. In voice, it's a bit problematic. It's hard to get the voice set up so that the recorded voice sounds like your own voice. It's also hard to get the timing right. So sometimes you're not even sure that the voice you're listening to is the guy that you called initially, So it's something to think about. Okay, and so I'll just before I go off on N1MM for a minute, for those who are new, any questions or comments so far about the other topics that we've mentioned?
So far, so good, Don. Honestly, it's looking really good, and it's an eye opener on, some of these contest stations. They're amazing. So don't think you have to replicate this sort of thing. Of course, if you're just getting started, or even if you've been in the business for a while, that little 7300 with 100 watts and a vertical. Bob's your uncle.
As I said, the big stations need you. They need you badly. So there's no point. It's sort of it's one of those things. It's like anything else. It's like it's a hobby that can get you carried away. If you get into it, and it's not necessary to do that. I can assure you. Okay, quick look at, so a lot of people have done N1MM, so I'm going to try to be quite quick here. So you guys know how this works, I think mostly. So you're entering, this is N1MM provides you with a series of windows, and you can choose which ones you want to open. There are enough windows that for the average contest, you can easily fill I have 2 monitors here, I can easily fill all of them with everything I need. This is the main one. This is the log or the call sign entry window. And you can see this one has entered Romeo Tango 9 Golf. This is a screenshot from the old version from N1MM, not N1MM Plus. And what will come up is the compass bearing. If you enter that, it will tell you where to turn your Yagi. It will also tell you the other way around, 180 degrees out of that if you want to go long path. The boxes here that you can see, the one with the F8 with the again in it, that tells you what your enter key is going to send, right? And you can send it either with a right click on your mouse or the enter key on your keyboard, and it will send again. Once you've got everything filled in that you need, you will just send F2, which is the exchange. And once you've got it set up properly and entered the right information, the yellow will show up on the exchange button. So you can do that with the enter key or the right click key. And so that gives you a little bit of a flavor. Again, once you get into it, you'll have lots of fun with that. A couple of the other windows quickly. This is the so-called band map. This will show you all of the stations that are on the band. Now you can do this two ways. If you're running an assisted station, you're connected to an internet node that collects these stations and their positions, their frequencies from all over the world. I use Victor Echo 7 Charlie Charlie. Lee Sawkins is the guy who runs that. He's an IT guy. He went to the same high school that I did in Burnaby. I think he might have been 1 year younger than me, Burnaby Central. So I kind of like that. I see him quite often at the Northwest DX convention when I go over there. So the stations line up, and of course with N1MN, all you have to do is click on the call sign, and your radio will move to that frequency. You have CAT control, computer-assisted control of the transmitter or the transceiver, so it will take you to the position you need to be. You have to make sure you have the right antenna on, and you have to make sure that your antenna is tuned for that frequency, but you get pretty used to that after a while. Here's what the log looks like. The call sign down here. See all the stuff that's entered. The frequency is entered by the computer. The time is entered by the computer. You enter the computer will enter 599 automatically. In this case, this particular contest, the ARRL DXCW, the exchange is the power of the station you're running. I'm going to show you one from the 80s in a few minutes. Most of these stations now are running power, so a lot of KWs there for KW, 400 watts. If you're running, the maximum power in the UK is, except for Scotland now, is 400 watts. So if you're working a UK station, you can be pretty sure they're 400. Let's see what else. There's the score summary. It's called. You can see the QSOs per band and the points and the zones and the countries, and then the total score is computed for you. That's why you don't have to go through use a calculator to get the score right. Also, it has a way of remembering the multipliers that you've worked. And so in this case, we're looking at the countries. So it's got all of the countries in the world, the call signs, and the bands, 180, 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, 10, and you can see 3 Bravo 8 this guy has worked all 4, 40, 20, 15, and 10. 3 Bravo 8, I think, is Gibraltar, I think, maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. F, of course, is France, and G is England, the UK. So that, and it will track whatever the multiplier is for the most part. Now, some of the small contests, they don't do a really good job of it. Sometimes if they're a series of mults, the screen is too small. If you have 2 screens, you can't track all of the mults. It's probably not necessary anyway. Sometimes it's useful to know quickly whether you've worked the station. You can just look up at the mult there. Here's the available mults and queues. Once again, you can click on these and the computer assisted transceiver will take you to whatever frequency it's on. So you can see it's color coded. So the red, depending how you have it, you can set it up whatever color you want, But the red in this case is it's a multiplier. The blue is just a normal station. You're just going to get 1 point or whatever point it is. The red, you're going to get a multiplier. In a lot of these contests, the green is a double multiplier. There's 2 multipliers you're going to get 2. So you're looking for the green stations. Again, if you're in this case, if you happen to be on operating on 15 meters and you see a station you want to work on 80 meters, you got to make sure that your antenna, you got a way of changing your antenna when you change your radio, obviously. And of course, you can set up a station so that your automatic linear and your automatic antenna selection will tune almost as quickly as you can get there. I don't have that capability. I have to probably retune if I'm going from 15 meters to 80 meters. Okay, and what do you need to get started? Any HF station will do. 5 watts with crummy antennas will work, and it's surprising how many people you can work in a contest. Like I said, the big contest stations need you. One way you can ensure that you're involved and able to make contacts is make sure you know the rules. Nothing worse than being in a contest where you don't know what the exchange is supposed to be. Happens all the time, though, I must say. People just get out there and they'll say, oh yeah, what do you want from me? And if it's voice, it's not so bad, but if it's CW, it's very hard. All you get is a question mark. And pretty soon the station who's running goes away pretty fast. Most contests accept handwritten logs, but you'll have more fun if you can use the computer logging. And what about strategy? Keys to success? Well, maybe there'll be some comments here, I'm quite sure, but one of the things is if you do contesting, you'll get better at listening and picking out call signs and contest exchanges from weak signals. It's a skill and it's something that you will get better at. Your CW speed will improve. Read the rules, know what you're doing, but you can't be shy. You can't be sort of waiting for somebody to call you. You've got to get out there and make mistakes, and you will make mistakes, but you've got to get over it. You'll get better, and I think Brian made this point earlier, you'll get better at knowing which bands are better at various times of day and knowing when to change bands to improve your QSO rate. And not many big gun stations, I repeat, so often you're not competitive. Like I'm not competitive because I only operate for short periods of time as a rule. I've got other things going on. I like to have fun. A lot of people keep track of the short periods of time they've worked in the various contests, so often try to get a better score than you did last year. A lot of people keep track of that. Some people even report that on 3830, and that's fun too. And like I said, it's like trying to improve your golf score without expecting to win the Masters, 2 basic strategy choices if you're new at this. One of them is running. Find a clear frequency. Not always easy to do in the big contests. And you're going to just call CQ, the CQ contest, etc. If you run successfully, this is a way of realizing the highest QSO rate as a rule. But usually running requires high power, good antennas, and so on. It's harder to run if you're a small station. You've got to resort to choice number 2. Running QSO sounds like this, if you're in any doubt. So here's me running. I say CQ, Victor Echo 7 Alpha X-ray. He says Golf Bravo 4, Mike Tango. I say Golf Bravo 4, Mike Tango, you're 593. This station, I'm sending only my CQ zone. 593, he says 5914, that's all he says. I write down 14, I've got his call sign, I enter it, right? I say QSL, Victor Echo 7 Alpha X-ray, QRZ contest. Maybe I don't even say that. Maybe I just say thank you. If there's a bunch of stations waiting to call me, like at V7UF, I just say thank you or something quick so that they know I've finished the last contest, so then they can call me and I can listen again. So you're trying to save your voice, you're trying to save your energy and get the rate up, okay? The only problem with running is mults, right? If you're mathematically inclined, like I said, when we did the calculations for those contests, you realize that a good score depends on maximizing your multipliers. So the experienced contesters do not sit and run all day long because they know they have to get the hard multipliers. Some mults are easy because they'll come, and so they'll come to you. But if you run constantly, the hard multipliers, the ones where there are very few stations on the air, they'll sit and run as well because everybody wants them. So you'll never meet them if you run and they run. You have to go to them or they have to come to you, and in most cases, you're going to them, right? So choice number 2 is search and pounce. You move across the band running, you're listening for running stations, calling CQ. When you find a station, get on his frequency, you send your call sign once. And that's one of the strategy issues. Well, I'll just go there and I'll go back. So search and pounce QSO sounds like that. So I'm listening. He'll say CQ contest, Yankee Bravo 8 Mike. I'll say Victor Echo 7 Alpha X-ray. He'll say Victor Echo 7 Alpha X-ray, you're 5928. I'll say you're 593. Thank you and good luck. I might say that or I might not. And he'll just say Yankee Bravo 8 Mike QRZ, right? Very simple and quick. I wanted to mention one of the strategy issues is like if you're trying to call this station, this difficult to work mult, how long do you want to stay there and call him? You could spend all day maybe and not go ahead. So you gotta judge your time, what you think you can do, how much time you think you can spare to do that. Always a judgment call. And I put that facetious comment there. When Wayne Gretzky had the puck, he always made the correct play. For me on contesting, I'm not so sure about that. Yes, go ahead, Brian.
Oh.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was going to say in a lot of these big contests, there's going to be such a pile up on people trying to work these good multipliers at the beginning of the contest. I don't even bother. I'll just do a lot of search and pouncing. And then after quite a few hours, or if it's a 2-day contest, maybe the second day, then the pile-ups on the rare multipliers will be a lot less, and then it's much easier to get through.
Yeah, good.
That's my philosophy and experience.
Yeah, very good point. Of course, and also too, the other thing about the big stations contesting, if they're running, they're almost always on the same frequency, so you can often go back to them even the next day. They'll be on the same frequency. Sometimes not just the end of the contest or the next day, but when propagation changes. Sometimes on the West Coast we have a propagation advantage over the East Coast, especially if we're working Japanese stations. There's a point at which we can work them and the East Coast can't. So that's something else too. But again, this is the kind of stuff that you learn and pick up as you go along with this. So if you miss something, it's pretty easy to ask the station to fill, right? If you're in CW, if you miss the call sign, you can just send call or just CAL. If you miss the number, just send NR, or if you miss the section, you can send SEC question mark, or often just again. And often you'll see on the setup keyboards for N1MM, you have a button that says again, which is really asking for the whole exchange again. And usually that's quite quick. In voice mode, you can say something like your call again, what's your number, or what's your section, or can I have all again, whatever, they do it quickly and expeditiously. What do you get if you win? Not much. Plaques for top scores in big contests, often awarded by the sponsors. A plaque or a trophy in some cases. Never had one of those. Certificates, usually awarded and attainable by modest stations. Because you're competing against the top score in your area, BC maybe, and for each entry category. So sometimes it's pretty easy. Sometimes nobody enters in the category except you. That's how I get my certificates. If you're interested in certificates, hey, go ahead, John.
It's important to submit your log. I won the CQ Worldwide contest by only making 3 contacts because no one else entered a log.
Yes, I'll show you some of those in a few minutes. I'll show you some of those examples. Good comment. You get some sense of accomplishment and satisfaction with the station you put together. if you're really addicted to this stuff, notice my facetious comment at the end. What you get is a lot of misery and poverty as your multiple divorces and alimony payments begin to undermine your lifestyle and mental health. Try not to let that happen. Here's one from the BC CUSO party a few years ago. I was the top scorer in Courtenay, Alberta. I think I might have been the only entry. I doubt if I beat Les. Anyway. And this is 2011. That's probably when that picture that we took earlier of Les and I and Dwayne and V7FO up there at the UF station. But you can see we were first place RTTY multi in Canada with a total score of 4,629,882. But I think somewhere it says, oh yeah, I think, where does it say?
Number 6 in the world.
Yeah, that says 6. That's what I was going for. Yeah, 6 in the world or something. Yeah, so that's not too bad. But you can, there's a station where I single operator unlimited in the sweepstakes, and there's another one for the 10-meter contest. I think we sort of covered how to get started, but the important thing is the Whiskey Alpha 7 Bravo November Mike has a contest calendar. He's been around for years. If you Google that, or if maybe you've looked at that, but I'll show you an example of what that looks like in a minute. So usually pick a contest where you think you might be able to hear the participating stations from V7, VA7. California CUSO Party is a good choice. The Indian Ocean QRP contest might not be such a good choice if you're for anybody in this part of the world, right? That's kind of a joke, but it illustrates the point. Read the rules. I've mentioned that several times. Listen, see what's happening. Rehearse a QSO in your mind. Start with a handwritten log if you want to. Try some search and pounce. Try to run. If you're having fun, consider setting some computer logging up. And anybody can do it with a small station. There's what the Whiskey Bravo 7 remember his call sign, Whiskey Bravo 7 Bravo November Mike. Sorry, going the wrong way. That's what the page looks like. So you can just click here. It just shows you how many contests there are in the average month. It's surprising. There's lots going on. So just to finish up, we're just about on the hour, and we'll have I'll do about 5 more minutes quickly. This is more for the just for information. So significant growth in participation since the early days of contesting in the 1930s. Computerization, RTTY. Those old timers among us who remember when RTTY was something that was done with a machine rather than with electronics, rather than with a computer. Computerization logging, that's huge, revolutionary. And I'll show you why. There's my log in ARL DX contest 1980. The exchange is there. The exchange is power. Notice there's no kilowatts running in that. These are working Japanese stations there, but you can see I'm doing it pretty fast. haven't got the times quite right, and I could not submit that log. I would have to rewrite it. But of course, you can see I'm making hundreds of contacts in a short period of time. So to rewrite it or to type it up is going to be a huge challenge. And often I didn't do that when I was first contesting in the 80s. I just did it for fun and didn't send the logs in at all. And then contrast.
10 meters.
Yeah, that's on 10 meters. Yeah. So and then contrast that with the Cabrillo format log, right? Everything is perfect, it's just, the computer takes care of it, and it's easy to send in, and even I can do it. So it's fun. Contesting the present. Well, Glenn's done a very good job of encouraging people to contest. I think it's great. I think people are getting interested even more in our Island HF group. Lots of contests, lots of activity. FT8's been a bit of a revolution. I didn't mention that too, because although FT8 is not yet a really serious contesting mode, But it is allowing people who live in apartments with with very little opportunity for antennas and so on to participate and to be involved. So the amateur radio in general is gradually increasing, both in Canada and the United States. The number of licensed amateurs continues to rise slowly. Contesting, not so sure about it. This guy, Frank M. Howell, Kilo 4 Foxtrot Mike Hotel, did a study about 4 years ago, and this is a bit out of date. Maybe you've seen this, but you get the idea that, so look at the left column. So from 2000 to 2020, for ARL sweepstakes, there were 1,232 CW entries, and that went down and then up and then up, and so it ended up being higher. So it ended up going up. Phone contest went down a little bit, then up and up and up, and then so it's higher than it was. So it's an increase from 2000 to 2020 in the logs submitted. But here's interesting. If you haven't seen this, this is quite frightening. So look at, this goes from 2000, the top square is 2000, 2005, 2011, 2015, 2020. Look what happens to the demographic, the age. So the line in the middle here is 60 years old, right? And in 2000, virtually all of the entrants in CW were below 60 years old. But look what happens when you get to 2020. Quite a difference. So people who are worried about the continuance of contesting are kind of talking about whether we should change or whatever. There are some hopeful trends. The on the air trend, summits on the air, parks on the air. Lots of people participating, and it's kind of like a contesting environment. All people care about is the exchange and getting their numbers up. The digital, the FT8, the forward error correction, below the noise level. There's lots of stuff happening with amateur radio on different frequencies than we used to play with, Arden and whatnot. So there's some activity there. Partnership of amateur radios for competition has been talked about a little bit. Geocaching, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but there's some people who like that, and there's a potential for some collaboration. And so maybe people are talking about creative new rules, maybe, that would try to get more people involved, or completely new types of contests. Remote operation, that's really a growing trend as well. So that's helping with contesting. And that's it. Open for discussion. Thank you for your kind attention. Covered quite a bit there.
Thanks, Don. Very good. Okay, open for questions. Let's go.
Yeah, I have a question there, Don.
Please, Roger, go ahead.
Yes. So I can only handle about 20 words per minute in CW. And needless to say, that doesn't get me too far. So I use software which assists me, CW Get or Morse Expert. And the debate is that mean that I need to be in the assisted category or not?
Some contests are quite specific about that, and the answer is yes, you do. In some contests, they don't specify that. I think it's, I don't know, it's one of those sort of, are you assisted in any way? That's how I read it. So you probably should be saying that you're assisted, but nobody's, again, it's not particularly well policed. It's an honor system, whatever you think. Maybe you don't use it very often, so you could, make a judgment call. I don't know. It's up to you. Well, maybe others have comments there. What do you think?
Well, Brian and I have debated this. He may have his own ideas.
Well, no, I think you were assisted. In fact, when I read the rules for that particular contest, I think it explicitly mentioned automatic CW decoding was assisted.
Yeah. I forget which one of the recent contests had that specifically mentioned, and I picked up on that. I noticed that.
It's a
But
system.
And same thing for sending also, right?
well,
To be assisted.
see, that's never been an issue, but that's a very good point as well.
But you might wind up with just an AI that does it everything.
I know. Well, we might very well.
You know?
I think Les, you had a comment there.
I was just saying, it's a system.
Yeah. Okay. And other people had questions.
Yeah, I was going to say that Pierre mentioned AI. Actually, this has already been done. The guys at UVic several years ago ran a station with no human intervention. They had a CW skimmer type thing, which was decoding call signs. If that call sign hadn't been worked or anything, the computer called it, an exchange was made and logged. And at the end of the contest, no human intervention, and they made something like 175 QSOs, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was going to say, when it comes to his computer sending of CW, would that be assisted? I would say no, because there's really not much effort in knowing how to send CW. You only have to know the letters and the numbers, but copying is that much more difficult. That would that's how I would differentiate.
The only
But with
thing,
the
the only
AI,
comment I would like to make to that rebuttal to Brian is if you're doing a contest that's over 48 hours and you're after 16 hours of operating, if it's auto generated rather than doing it by street key or a bug or whatever, I mean, the toll does take with time.
Yeah. So it's
Toll takes when you're copying it in your head as well.
it's a good point.
but
And
would
try
the-
and
but
try
would
and
the-
stay awake during some of
the
these
AI
contests, because I can't.
be having fun?
Sorry, go ahead, Les.
Would the AI be having fun?
That's a good question too, isn't it? Scott, did you have a
Yeah, Scott has a question.
Scott, go ahead.
Hi, Don. Thanks very much. I'm a longtime QRP CW operator, but not a contester, and very instructive to hear your presentation today. Two things that come to mind. The first one is I'm always interested in contests because often you hear a lot of stations and a lot of DX that you'd like to work, especially with QRP. So it's very enticing to get involved. But if you don't know the rules of the contest, what would be the right protocol to try to make a QSO with someone who you'd like to make contact with? Should you just stay clear, or should you try to come in and somehow announce that you're not part of the contest, or what would you recommend?
If you're doing CW contesting, I would recommend that you go immediately to WB7BNM and get the rules and figure. I mean, you can quickly figure out what the exchange is supposed to be. Or if you listen to the DX station running other stations, you can discern very quickly what the exchange is needed to be. Probably,
Okay.
So
so in other words, kind of get in the game temporarily.
I think that's the only reasonable way to do it. If he hears you and responds, and you don't know what to send him, he's going to move on pretty quickly.
Right. Okay. The other point, actually, the idea of sensibilities. With contesting and with almost all the rewards-based programs that are out there, I would like to hear a rationale for why people continuously require to send signal reports which are meaningless. Like, why would all the contesters, both those receiving and those sending, send 599 in CW or 5x9 in voice? It means absolutely nothing It's in all the logs exactly the same way. So what is the reason for that, and why keep it up?
I'll answer, but Les has a comment, and then anybody else maybe. Go ahead, Les.
I think it's tradition.
Tradition.
Nothing more than tradition. I'd also like to go back to Roger with the CW Get, and I think if he continues to use it, he will find that his CW improves over time.
Yeah, I agree. I used to be stuck at around 17 words a minute. I'm now just a little bit over 20. The trouble is, if everyone would slow down to 20, I'm in great shape. But I've got a little bit further to move yet.
Yeah. Peter, go ahead.
Get off your, there you go.
No stupid questions being asked so far. I have the privilege to ask the first one. I'm newcomer to contesting at all. My question would be, I recently downloaded N1MM. I found it very convoluted. It wouldn't work with my IC7300. Is there a good way to learn N1MM?
My comment there is, Peter, that when you're first setting it up, there's quite a lot of trial and error involved, and it's always required a great deal of patience. And of course, I just bought a new radio just before Christmas, and I actually threw up my hands and got Les VA7RN, who's in our audience this evening, to come over and help me out. So you could probably find someone, because the 7300 is quite a common radio. Lots of people have it. You could probably find someone who would help you to set it up. And the so much depends on your software skills, computer skills. And I'm sorry, but I'm just, although Les is older than I am, I think I miss the computer revolution. You know, I'm just really not very good with computers, and so I often need help with COM ports.
So Don, could I interrupt here for a second,
Sure.
Don? Yeah, I want to get Ram in here in a second because has his hand up there for a while. But I wanted to mention, this is something I don't know whether I chatted with Andy about this, but especially down here in Victoria, there are a number of radio amateurs. 300, and they're set up with a 7300, and they're contesting. And if I was in Peter's seat this evening and I was brand new, my head would be swimming. There is a lot, the presentation was excellent, but there's a lot of stuff, right? So I bet you, Peter, if you went over to Alan's home with his 7300 and sat beside him in the contest and picked his brains, you would learn so much so quickly. And I'm gonna suggest to the whole of Island HF that for anybody who is brand new or nearly new and want to get into contesting, because it can be a lot of fun, we can set you up with somebody to help out and sit beside and talk about N1MM and, whereabouts on the, how do I get the contest, the score summary and all the rest of that sort of stuff. And you'll feel 1,000% better, guarantee. So that's what I would like to suggest. And I'm going to put that out into the Island HF notes, the next Island HF notes. And so if you're interested in sitting beside somebody, if you're interested in entertaining somebody on a contest like the BC QSAR party's coming up, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Could we go over to Ram here, Don, and see what his
yes,
question
please,
is?
Ram. Sorry, I see your hand now. I missed it.
All good. Thanks, Glenn. And actually, one of a couple of my questions were already answered. And Glenn, you just answered the question that I'm going to ask. So I'll take the floor to thank Don. Don, actually, first and foremost, thanks so much for your session. My name is Ram. I'm very new to this ham world, meaning to say, it's only just a little over a month I have completed my certifications. And for me, I felt like this was very informative. All I wanted to ask actually, what would be my option to tag team with any senior or experienced members while they're already participating in a contest. And I just wanted to see, I don't want to compete in my first space itself, but can I see, can I learn, those sessions practically? Can I observe that one? I think, Glenn just answered that one.
Yeah, and that's why Island HF is here. People want to get into not only contesting, but anything that's HF oriented. You can see all these folks on the screen here. They're all out there supporting you, whether you're new, whether you've been in there for a while, whether you're hardware nut, or whether you're doing CW. How the heck do I do CW? That sort of stuff. People will be able to help out. Larry, you've got a question for Don.
Yeah, it's maybe an odd one. I've never been into contesting, but when I was lived up in VE, when I was a VE8, every once in a while I'd be on the band and someone would come creeping up and find me and ask me to go down to a frequency, and they tell me what the exchange was so they could make a contact with the VE8. And I would do that, but of course I wasn't submitting a log or anything. So did that count, or was I missing something in the process there? It used to happen a couple times a year.
No, it's likely to have counted. There are always some people who don't submit the logs, or sometimes if you just make a casual contact, you're not going to go to the trouble of submitting the logs. So those are counted. The computer analysis of the logs has come a long way, and they are able now to sort of match logs from if there's thousands of logs coming in, they can run it all through, and you can see whether there's a match or not. So they're able to pick up whether someone is inventing a contact or not, And there was always, going back to the 70s and 80s, before computer logging, there was always the suspicion that there were contesters who were doing that, And of course, at the time of the Soviet Union, it was always suspected that the Russians were always cheating, So now they're able to pretty much nail that down. But of course, there's still going to be some loose ends, because there, like you say, there are times when somebody won't put their log in, so they can't really tell whether you worked them or not. So you could probably get away with inventing one or two contacts, but you never know, because you can't ask the fellow that you just worked whether he's going to be submitting his log, So
that's what I mean. Like I wasn't in a contest. I'd never submitted a log, but I was a VE8, and they were looking for us for whatever contest it happened to be.
Yeah, there aren't too many VE8s. In fact, there are a few, but not very many, and there are very few Victor Yankee zeros in Nunavut. I can tell you. So, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, just to stay there for a moment and to understand, if I listen into a contest and I have an interesting station and I contact him, am I of any value to him for his contest log if I'm not part of the contest? Or is it only of a value for him point-wise if I submit my log to the same contest?
No, you are of value to him even if you don't submit your log, provided that you've given him the correct exchange, or an exchange that works in the contest, right? So in order to, and sometimes if you're doing a voice contest, or if you're listening to a CW contest, you can figure out what the exchange is supposed to be. So if you heard another Victor Echo 7 station sending 5993, then you could send the same, and that would be helpful to the other station.
But I
If
don't
you-
have a number to give him.
Oh yes, well, but you do. If the number is just your zone and you live in zone 3, then you have a number, right? And if it's a contest that requires a progressive serial number, this happens quite often. Just send one, you know. And if you work 2 stations in the contest, send the second one gets 2 and the third one gets 3, right? And if it's a section, send BC, Bravo Charlie, right?
Comment there, Glenn.
Yes, Alan, go ahead.
Well, I gotta make a comment now that Glenn has outed me as a contester. So, albeit a little pistol as you go on. I'd be willing to help anybody, get started. And like you say, someone said, it's nothing like watching somebody else do it, sitting beside somebody who's contesting, and you just figure out what it's about, whether it's right for you. So I know it can be very scary going in. That said, there are contests that are very friendly, and I put in the comments there the Washington State QSO Party.
Oh, yes.
Which they call Salmon Run.
The Salmon Run, yeah.
Well, they stop and chat, and it's great. Like, say I'm from Victoria, and they say, oh, I've been to Victoria too. Well, it's supposed to be rapid exchange, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think California is the same. The BC's QSO Party is pretty rapid, but there are ones you can get into. Very friendly. Go on voice first. Learn your phonetics.
Yeah.
We have. I just want to comment quickly here, Dawn. We have a unique situation down here in Victoria. When you get in one of the popular contests like the Salmon Run or the BC QSO Party and whatnot, and I'll go down to the Oak Bay Marina. Well, within probably what is it, half a kilometer or something like that, there's Andy, there's Roger, there's Alan, and of course I'll go down to the down to the Oak Bay Marina, and I'll start putting my 50 watts out, and of course that sort of that bums up their stations big time for a bit. So I have to say, okay, I'm going to be down there for a couple hours, and then I'll get the heck out of there. So it's good fun, and it's that's a good problem to have, getting lots of guys and gals on the airwaves. I wanted to quickly mention it's about 8:30 here, close to 8:30, so we'll be shutting down here in a moment. Helen is on the the Zoom call tonight, VE7XHK. Helen helped me put together an Island HF grid square certificate.
Awesome.
A contest. Could you share the screen with me, Andy?
What do I have to do? Share. Well, I think you can, I said one can share at a time, so I'll say multiple. Okay. You should
Okay.
be- yeah,
Hold
try
on.
it.
Yeah, I should have it here. Yeah, there it is. So this is a certificate that Helen and I worked on, like Trojans for about 7 to 10 days. Now I'm just throwing this out. I have no idea where it's going to go at this point in time, but this is an idea of an Island HF contest, possibly. How it would work, I don't know. But I also know that it's would be a lot of work to volunteer and have it as a contest. But I thought I'd just throw that out that there's ideas floating around out there that Island HF maybe even get onto something like this. So I just wanted to highlight that Helen is brand new to the hobby, which is hugely dominated by males. But an invitation to you, Helen, if you want to get out there with one of the friendly local amateurs like Alan, he would be most helpful in getting you set up. Any final questions for Don this evening? Is he still here? Yeah, there he is. Right. Shifted around on the screen there for me. Any final questions for Don?
I don't have a question. I was just going to make a comment. Glenn spoke about operating from his car by the Oakmead Marina there, as a lot of other people do. And of course, we've got Pota and Sota. One of the real killers, Don, as I'm sure you're aware, and I certainly am, is that, more and more amateurs are living in properties where they can't put up antennas, or they've got very limited antennas. And even if you do have a good antenna, and I like to think that I got a pretty good antenna for a small suburban lot, but the real killer is the electrical noise, which is getting worse and worse. For example, there's a 160-meter contest tomorrow night, and I'll spend a few hours, but I have an S9 and a bit noise level on the 160 meters, so I'm not going to work very much. And the same on 80 and even 40. It's just getting worse and worse. And I find in a lot of contests, after a few hours, I don't find any new stations to work because I'm not hearing anybody because of the electrical noise. So not much one can do about it. It's just a downer, and I throw it out there because I'm sure others experiencing the same thing will simply empathize with me.
Yeah, big challenge for sure. Pierre.
Yeah, just to emphasize Brian, point, next door neighbor has a plasma TV.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, I think you should offer to buy him an LCD one and get rid of his old one. Done with it.
Yeah.
I'm really thinking about that.
Well, people have done it,
Tom,
go ahead.
you have to get off your mute there, Tom.
Yeah, I just jammed my mouse into my computer. That's why the button wouldn't work. I had the same problem with the plasma TV, those little MFJ boxes, those nulling devices. Second antenna, I got totally rid of it. Right down to S1. I mean, it attenuates a bit of the signal on the band, but I could not use 80 for her until she moved out. But yeah, you can do it. And I have had noise, especially on 6 meters with hydro power poles, transformers. And if you do call them, and I think I still have the contact number. There's actually an engineer who comes out, usually in the summer, because you need the dry insulators. And they come around with their fairly impressive DFing equipment in a vehicle, and they'll find it, and magically 2-3 weeks later, the noise goes away. But it won't work in the winter because
okay, folks, 8:31. I'd like to thank Don again for a great presentation. If you go out to the Island HF website, you'll see WA7BNM there. That's the links for the contests. Great place to pick up all that information, and lots of other stuff out there, including events. Next month, we're going to have David Broad with the military, going to be talking about communications there. And then we have another presenter in March. But I don't have anybody for April. So if anybody's interested in April, we'll slot you in there. Anyways, and
Thanks.
once again, thanks, Sandy.
No, you're welcome. And I'll have that available for downloading later, probably within a few hours.
Looks like Ram has a question. Ram.
Oh,
he was waving goodbye. He was waving goodbye. Oh, no, there he is. Okay, no problem. So as we say in the contesting world, thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the pileups.
Okay.
Thank you very
Great.
much for everything.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thanks, Don.